So if I can just, ask you again, when one of the things that we've been thinking about, apart from pitching, is that as filmmakers, this day and age, these days, we have to be very aware about inclusivity and diversity when making films in every areas of broadcasting. So what would you say to our emerging filmmakers about what they need to be aware of, the importance of inclusivity and diversity in filmmaking?
Is that to me or to David?
That's to you, Kit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's vital, and it should be absolutely implicit in all commissions that we are creating an offering whereby all people can see themselves represented. And it's hard on a mainstream channel. If you were to go in hard on the nose, often in a subject area that is about a smaller minority of the population, unfortunately, a lot of the audience, for many reasons, may not come to it. So I try to get inclusivity by stealth. I am very rigorous in pushing back with the companies that I work with, or working with them to make sure that casting, the contributors, I do a lot of documentary with lots of real people as opposed to sort of more presenter-led stuff. It's real people, real stories that I enjoy. So I make sure that we have a really, really well-rounded representation of contributors. I was talking to a colleague this morning, actually. I did a talk this morning about something else, and we were talking about inclusivity, and there was a trans family, couple on the Great British Model Railway Challenge, and they were there as contributors, and it wasn't about their status or their sort of identification as a trans couple. They were there to make model railways, and therefore a greater audience came to the programme to watch model railways. And in their front rooms was this representation of maybe a couple that some people had not met before. So for the 70-year-old person sat at home, they were enjoying this, these people taking part in this program. And so that all of our programs have to, they have to be representative of everybody. Yeah, and we work very hard to do that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kate. And you're right, it's absolutely very important. It's like a fabric of everything we do, today. And that's why even here at Together TV is something that we take very seriously. It's one of the reasons that led us to starting this scheme in the first place. So just like, to make sure that everybody can see themselves represented in every aspect of our organization.
I didn't grow up seeing anybody like me on television, in the 70s, in the 80s. There was nobody, and that is so damaging. So it's
and also it was representation that wasn't positive representation.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you saw it, that's the other thing. There's like 2 gay characters on telly in the 80s.
Yeah, exactly, and it's absolutely right, because that is one of the things that's been lacking for many years. People, everybody, people being able, the community, everyone being able to see themselves being represented positively, and in media, in every fabric of our society. So that's what leads to acceptance and understanding of each other. And so, it's very vital. We try to promote that. And we are also encouraging all the filmmakers to be mindful of that when you're creating a documentary. It's part of what we want to see. It's one of the purpose of this. Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, it's interesting how politicized stories are versus, as Kit says there, in terms of the trans contributors in that series. It wasn't a trans story, and it's how do you tell stories or that can have heart and humor into it, as well as necessarily just sort of tackling a serious issue or an issue that hasn't been on TV before. And I think that's a sort of interesting point to try and go, can you find tell stories of underrepresented people, but that it's not necessarily a sob story, or it doesn't necessarily need to come from a sort of a political point. It's sort of, you know, how can you make them again reach a sort of wider audience?
Thank you, David. Thank you, Kate. Just to quickly say to everyone, please feel free to start sending your question in now. We will answer them during the Q&A. Please pop them into chat, and our team members will answer each questions during the Q&A. Can I also just, so if I can come back to Sheila, first of all. Hi, Sheila, how are you?
Hi, Janet. I'm good, thank you. Great stuff I'm listening to here. I'm just soaking it all in.
Yeah, that is fantastic. With your experience in applying for this funding last year, you know, what advice would you share with the people that are trying to apply this year?
First of all, I would definitely say, in terms of what you're looking for in a story, think outside of the box. Think about, I think Kit made a really great, gave a really great example of two people who were occupying a space and just as themselves. They didn't have to be politicized. They were just ordinary people. And I think that's what I did when I approached looking for the story of the Black equestrian, because I wanted to tell a story, one, that hadn't been seen on television before. People don't see Black people riding horses. So I was like, I hadn't seen it. So I was like, let me look for it. And I happened to find a few people. And of course, Together TV loved it. So I would definitely say, think outside of the box in terms of your contributors or whoever it is that you're kind of framing your story around. There's some extraordinary stories in the queer community. And I think, you could find somebody that's doing something totally outlandish, occupying a space that maybe you wouldn't have thought would kind of have come into play. And so that would be my advice for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sheila. Just to mention, our application is now open for those who doesn't know, and it's going to stay open to the 31st of March. If you have any questions, please pop them into the chat below, and we will answer all of them during our Q&A session. Thank you, Sheila. So working with Together TV, with your, because I was going on, for me, from our perspective, that this is what we did, this is what we did, but it would be nice to hear it from someone who has been through it. So what would you say your experience was like working with Together TV? I mean, in terms of receiving the fund and the support to create your film?
Wow, first of all, it was a massive learning curve for me. So probably much like a lot of applicants, I hadn't produced or directed anything before. I had been working in the TV industry, in the film and TV industry as a runner, and then moved up to a researcher. So I had experience in terms of how the industry was structured, but of course, never had I been in the driving seat. So I think I learned a lot. Trying to get my words together here without making anyone look bad. No, not at all. It was really great. I think the support and the amount of information that we were given as the final five who went through was completely invaluable. I learned so much about the industry, everything from regulations to the legal side of things, and also the mentorship and being given somebody who can kind of guide you through every step of the way, that maybe so many things that you just don't really think about. And overall, the experience was at times challenging for myself because I hadn't been in that position before, but the support that I got from Together TV was just so encouraging as well, because ultimately we had to get these films out there. And I think having our hands held through that is something that you're not necessarily going to get once you're not on a scheme or you won a competition and you've been given this guidance. So it was really good for me on my end.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you so much. So you hear that, guys. So it's not just from us. Now you can hear from Sheila directly how the experience went. So feel free to apply. The application is open to the 31st of March. And you can visit our website for more information. That is togethertv.com. If you have any questions, please also go email us at info@togethertv.com. So I'm just going to go back to David, if you don't mind, and just wanted to say to you, I want to ask you now, this all these filmmakers now trying to go about trying to put the application forward and everything. And one of the things that we have asked people is to be able to demonstrate the fact that they can, do the project, they demonstrate the ability to create good film for the audience that, for audience to enjoy. It's not just for them, it's not just for us, obviously it's for the audience. What would you advise first-time filmmakers who is writing their treatment for the first time to be aware of when, making the application?
Well, I guess, a pitch is always really important. And, we spend a lot of time in terms of the decks, we call them now, rather than treatments, in terms of what a deck would look like, in terms of obviously the text and the visuals, and how do you get across what the tone of that series is as well, I think is really important. And obviously I think what Kit's advice about being able to sort of say it in one breath is a really brilliant starting point, because it's very easy to get bogged down or muddled by a story, even when you think you know it. So I think that's a great discipline, to sort of really be able to simplify what the story is and how you're then trying to say it. And as I say, I think for me, that's what I'd be interested in, the sort of the personal authorship or voice of the filmmaker, and it not necessarily just feeling like it needs to be politicized. What are the other ways which you can tell a story in terms of sort of using humor? And then I guess I'm not quite sure with the application here, whether you can include visuals. Janet, is that something that they're able to do?
Yeah, they're allowed to submit a show reel if they have any, just to show, to talk about the experience to support the application.
And what about in terms of graphics and stuff, in terms of what?
No, we're not asking them to support.
No, not for that.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I think that's even more important, to just have sort of sharp focus on what you want to do. And again, I'd really try and sort of think about, does it have an active storyline, or is it a retrospective story? What type of documentary are you trying to make? I mean, obviously Netflix and all their true crime films, they recount old stories with testimony, and amazing recon and visuals. And, are you trying to make that type of film, or actually is it much more of an observational story that, and then if it is an observational story, how do you make it feel less of a portrait of someone? And I suppose that's the thing that I think would be good, is the sort of the active narrative that is the backbone to something.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
If that answers the question, sorry.
It does. You know what? Everything that is being said today is beneficial to all the applicants as well, and I'm sure that they're happy to hear all these vital nuggets to be able to take away and make their application. So, I just want to reiterate again that this application is open to everyone to apply. We're particularly encouraging first-time filmmakers or emerging filmmakers, and we want those from LGBTQ community or LGBTQ community plus allies to apply. We're encouraging people from that community to apply. Please submit your application to togethertv.com. If you have any questions about how to apply, or what steps you need to take, contact us on info@togethertv.com, and continue to pop in your questions. I've got quite a few questions here actually, guys, so sorry, I just piling up, but we'll get to that in a minute. Kate, if I can come back to you again, because I want to try, one of the things I'm hoping that we'll be able to give our applicants today is just enough information for them to be able to take away and go around, write a very successful project. Because if not for Together TV, even for their future project. So I mean, as a commissioner, when you look at when you look at a project or documentary, what sort of things will put you off? Because we look at what people should do, but we never really mention what, do not do this and do not do that. What are the main do nots that filmmakers need to be aware of before submitting any work to you?
I mean, it's hard because it's really, these filmmakers are, they're not submitting it for, to necessarily go on, 9 o'clock slot on a Friday night. If I was to say that, I would have a list of do nots, but I would say you want a beginning and a middle and an end, and that sounds, I don't want to sound patronizing because I'm sure everybody knows it's got to be a beginning, but someone once said to me that, and I do feel that all the time. I think, well, what's the middle bit? I think often we know what our starting point is going to be, and we often know where we want to get to, whether it's a 20-minute film or a 90-minute film, but the middle is really hard to get right. So what is your figurative, literal journey of the character or the characters, the story arc? Is it going to be, within a story, there needs to be the highs and the lows, the dark, the light, the shade. So I would say not having a proposition that would plateau and would be 20 minutes, like a long, we spoke briefly about casting tape or a long sync pull, for example. It needs those points that spike, whereby suddenly we are taken on quite an emotional journey, but then we may well laugh, within seconds. And so it's playing with the balance of what happens in your story and having that thought beforehand. Where am I going to take this story? I kind of know how I'm going to end, but what is the chunk in the middle? I would say that would be something that would be, if that's not right, then that would be, you'd want to get that right at the beginning, really knowing what that chunk would be. But keeping it clear. What's your clear line through something? And I think if you really understand what you're trying to sell, it will work, as long as you've got that simple line.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you very much.
I'm so keen not to say a negative. It's more sort of, I don't want people to feel the negatives can often be turned into positives, so it's hard to say don't do this, because one wouldn't want to stamp on any sort of creativity at this stage. It's the journey, and that's what we would do with the filmmakers, is hopefully work out where to take that story.
Thank you. Honestly, I'm sure that everyone listening really appreciates this information, because sometimes we put story together and it seems right to us, and sometimes we miss that little thing that can sort of like make our application successful or not. So that I feel that it is very beneficial for our applicants. Thank you, Kate. So I'm just going to quickly go into Q&A. So the first question, because they've been piling up, they've been coming fast and furious. So the first question is going to be to Kate. And this question says, so how can we best put across, and I think you've already mentioned this earlier on, it said, how can we best put across our vision for the film in its visual?
In a visual, okay. Well, I mean, if it were to be a show reel, like a taster tape or something, I would say try and keep the idea to, if it's some characters that you want to showcase, try and keep that tape, relatively short, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, which is a good discipline for the succinctness that we've spoken about, what is the single thread of your story, or what is the key thread of your story. Visuals may well be like a mood board. What is the backdrop to your film? Is there a location that is a particularly strong part of where you're setting your piece? Is it in a factory? Is it in a beach location? Where is it? Try and bring it to life. It's a visual medium, so what am I going to feel when I see that imagery? So yeah, I think that the pictures you choose to help sell something, are a really key. And maybe, you know, there's some particular lines that you want to include that jump off the page that are emotional triggers for the reason as to why you want to make this, or the contributors that you're working with have told you something that resonated and made you feel like, oh my goodness, that's an incredible story. That's a story I want to tell. Are there nuggets, sound bites? How do you bring them alive, whether it's on a reel or, you know, coming from the page? Draw the person that you're selling it to in as quickly as possible and as visually as possible.
I'm not sure if it's helpful as well, Janet. The thing that we often do is, you know, because if we're trying to tell a story, but we're trying to get it commissioned, so we haven't filmed with the contributors beforehand, is we'll cut a sort of taster tape using found footage. So basically taking things off YouTube or, you know, other footage and archive, and put a number of slates in. So it's trying to put the treatment into like a 1.5-minute sizzle. Again, that sort of can give you the tone of the piece and the style of the piece, and explain what the story could be. But you know, I'm sure some people would be editing their own stuff all the time, so you know, you could be using music with it, sound effects, but that sort of crunches it into a sort of 90-second taster tape in a way. But don't worry that you need to have shot with the contributors or the, or you know, or the story itself. You know, you can use stuff that we do that lots. You know, we pitched a kit with a, you know, a sizzle of something we've built to try and sell an idea to you know, to get the broadcasters excited in it that way round.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you, Kate, as well, you know, for that. Sheila, if I can come back to you for a bit. As like you did this last year while you were studying, so I'm assuming we probably get some people as well who are in your position. What would you advise them, you know, studying and trying to apply for this thing, this scheme? Should it win, what would your advice be to them?
Definitely say get ready, because it's gonna be very, very challenging. But ultimately, I think just be sure to don't bite off more than you can chew. Firstly, you know, you may feel like, oh, I really don't want to miss this opportunity, it's great for me, but you know, your studies are also really important. But I think it's very doable if you just structure everything that you're doing. I was fortunate enough, just after we went out of pre-production and went into production, was just when I was going into sort of my third semester. So I had a little bit of give or take, and I also approached my my lecturers, and I did, you know, let them know what was happening, that I'm working on something, and they were sort of a lot more flexible with me and sort of helped me. So, you know, always reach out if you need help. There's people around you who are always going to be able to help you. So, and I'm sure, you know, people have all kinds of other challenges. It could be kids, it could also be trying to, you know, if you're already working in the industry as well, you know, the time is very, very, very limited. So you know, just make sure you're having conversations with the right people who are able to provide you with that support. I loved, actually, Together TV knew from the word go that I was doing my masters at the time, and you guys gave me a lot of support. And you know, people saying to me, I know we have a deadline for this, but just remember, you know, you are in school as well, so focus on that as well. So you guys are going to be in good hands if you're in the same position I was in.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sheila. That was a good testimonial. Thank you. My second question from our listeners, and I'm going to pose this to Dave and Kate, if you can please just answer. So the second question says, hoping to pitch something based on my real life experience. How much details would you want? Well, actually, that's for us. How much detail would be best on plans for crewing up for, you know, when it comes to hiring crews based on real life experience? Can I just ask David to answer that first, please?
Sorry, so I didn't quite get the question.
So it says, hoping to pitch something based on my real life experience. How much details would you want on plans for crewing up? So how much details would they need in terms of hiring crews and to make the film about their own real life experience as a filmmaker?
I'm not really sure. I guess
I think maybe this person is, because in the past we've had someone saying that I'm making film about myself. Do I need to get crew to help me up? And I just get someone that I know to just give me. But we are always trying to make sure that everybody gets the right type of people to help them professionally. And
and I think that's the thing. You definitely, you know, if it's a very personal story, is there lots of footage that they've already shot of them, you know, of themselves? Would be a question. You know, what, again, it goes back to what will the film be built from? You know, if there's maybe footage of family, you know, archive that they've had for a very long time that could be telling a story. It goes to a sort of broader question, I guess, of how best to spend the money. You know, for the ones that are awarded the funds, and you know, because obviously there's pre-production, there's production, there's the edit, there's the final post, and it's thinking, you know, to be smart about how best to use it. You know, we're always having conversations about how many crew days do we want to use, you know, a camera operator or a director of photography versus self-shooting PDs. And again, that's a question of, you know, how well do the filmmakers shoot? You know, loads of films are better for being shot by the filmmakers themselves. And then obviously other films are much better if you might go, it's a very stylized story, and I'm going to use, you know, 2 or 3 crew days. I'm going to storyboard and put together a running order and a shooting schedule, you know, and again, the mentors will be able to help with that, to sort of, once you get into the nuts and bolts of how best to make that film. You know, so yeah, I guess, you know, there's sort of different versions of what's best depending on what that film is.
Yeah. And sorry, Kate, thank you, David. Kate, so what, I mean, it's the same question really, and also what are the importance of hiring the right crew when making your documentary?
Yeah, I mean, hiring crew, getting the right staffing on board, I mean, you know, is crucial. But that is something that, you know, it also comes with experience. So that is, like David says, something that we can help see, you know, when you have a budget, and the budget is never enough for whatever you make, so you cut your cloth accordingly. But it might be that you do absolutely prioritize, you know, somebody who's, you know, a very deft editor who can, if your you know, if the film requires something that you know, has, you know, some special effects or some, you know, extra graphics, or but I think it's making sure that the coverage of the story is sufficient to get the story and the emotion across on screen. And it's, you know, do you want 2 cameras shooting something that requires you know, there's times to be really on top of the, you know, contributor quite up close, and there's times to really step back if it's a moment. And if you're stepping right back, make sure you've got everything covered. You know, we are making a series at the moment with the police and paramedics, and we're putting body cams on people because we want to make sure that we can respectfully step back, but that the intimate detail of the amazing work that happens is covered. So it's, once you know the story you want to tell and the moments in the story that need a particular you know, framing, you'll know what you need and where those, you know, the resources are best placed in your schedule, and so that's all part of the creative process. And you know, it's a fun part as well to work out what you need and how best to sort of approach it. But yeah, having a good tight team that all believe and all understand what the vision is that you're trying to you know, bring to something is critical.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you. Thank you so much, you guys, for that question. I have lots of questions. I'm just seeing them scrolling on, you know, coming like a tidal wave. So the next questions, actually, if you guys don't mind, I would like you both to answer it. And if Dave can please go first. And the question says that, as people with experience in this field, what challenges do you think we would face when making when you're talking about the queer experience with younger people? So this is a question. Yeah. So if Dave,
I don't know. I mean, I maybe it's because I'm so
I mean to
old.
repeat that. So it's, yeah. Should I just repeat it?
Well, what challenges
Yeah.
would the filmmakers face? Sorry, when filming with young queer
young people. Yeah.
Well, I guess, I mean, there's sort of two parts to that, aren't there? In my head, sort of the you know, being young and queer today feels as though you can talk about it in a way that you couldn't when I was 18 and gay and terrified to come out. But, you know, I'm sure that's a generalization, and that the stories are, and the individuals, and I imagine the stories that you'll be attracted to, you know, obviously they'll be complex, and, you know, dealing with young people and the duty of care around young people. I think we've sort of caught up, you know, in the finally in sort of the TV world. And actually, I sort of think back to some of the things that I filmed over the years and then broadcast, and I don't think they would be on TV now, because we're so much more aware of around the consequences of what we film and how we film it. And, you know, I mean, one of the series, my sort of biggest series was set, you know, the Educating brand, you know, is set in a school, and it tells the stories of young people. And even probably some of those earlier episodes, we would question now, is that appropriate to allow that young person to tell that story? I still think, you know, difficult stories can be told, and they can be told responsibly. But you then need to question, it is out there for the world to see, and is it going to be fine how someone feels now, especially when they're young, and will they regret sharing that story in a year's time, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time? You know, the other big thing that we're always thinking about now is social media. You know, it's all well and good that you protect your contributors when a series goes out on linear telly, but, you know, things don't just go out on BBC One at 8 o'clock anymore. You know, they're out there permanently, and people are really mean, and Twitter is really, really awful. Having said that, I still think, as I say, you can think about making the film in a responsible way, and you can help deal with the negativity that people get by sharing their story. You know, the only way to change that negativity is by fighting against it, isn't it? So that makes the stories even more important to tell.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. Can you just sort of summarize in a minute? I know it's much to ask because it's quite an important topic. How to address this matter?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think David did a really succinct job of it. I would say, you know, some of the most difficult story, you know, some of the most important stories to be heard are difficult, and the duty of care is paramount. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't tell them, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't approach stories that are difficult, as long as the support and the framework is in place. And I think that what we may find is that there are young people wanting to share a story, and there is one thing to approach that, but when you sit down with a camera, you don't know how you're going to feel, either listening to someone talk about something, or for that person to talk about something. So really, really being thorough in our approach to the story that's going to be told, with all the right support and things in place, will be critical. You know, I would imagine, because it's you know, it's hard. There are topics that are hard to talk about, but it's important that, you know, unless we talk about them, nothing changes.
Yeah.
And obviously, as you know, the mentors will really be able to help with that as well. So
yeah.
Again, I wouldn't sense check it too much at this stage, because that's what, you know, the fund is for. So so, you know, share the ideas first.
Yeah, Thank you, David. Thank you, Kate. So so at this time, because we're fast running out of time, but we have so many questions coming in. Please continue to send your questions.
2-word answers. We can only say 2 words.
And we can only do it in one. We can only do it in one breath.
Sorry,
one breath.
guys. You know, we are running out of time.
Go on then.
Please keep on sending your question into info@Together TV. And if you want to direct some questions to David or Kit, we will forward it to them, or even to Sheila, we will forward it to them later. I just need to remind our listeners as well quickly about some of the things that we are looking for as part of your application submission. So your treatment should be about 2,000 words characters, describing your film, why you think the film reflects LGBTQ+ communities in the UK today. So the director's statements have to be 1,000 characters, and describing your vision for the film and how it delivers impact for Together TV. So if you want to, obviously we ask you to summarize your experience as a filmmaker or TV producer. So, and that should be done in 1,000 characters. Again, please visit our website for further information. Everything, all the Q&As are there. Any question that you might want to ask, contact us at info@togethertv.com. And for more information on how to apply, please visit our website at Together.
Can I ask? I was going to ask one quick question there. Are the winning applications from last year there, for instance? So can people see Sheila's application?
No, we didn't post the applications there, so we just, yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. But if people want to see the film, they're still on our website, so you can, feel free to watch them. They're amazing 5 short films, and we're looking forward to receiving this year's application as well. So at this time, I just want to say, if David, I will start with you again. Sorry, I keep on coming back to you. It's not on purpose, just because you are the first on my screen, that's why. So just a last sort of like a minute word of advice for our filmmakers.
Oh God, that's a big question. I guess it's what we've talked about really already. It's about the clarity of story and the passion why you want to tell it, and how you are going to tell it, and why your individual take on it is important. There you go. That was really quick. I ran out of air. I ran out of air.
So much. I was thinking, time. Thank you so much, David. We really appreciate your valuable nuggets of information that you've given us today. And Keith, can I just ask you also to just give our filmmakers, something for them to take away with them before submitting their applications today?
Yeah, it's what will give the audience the feels, what will make the audience think about what you've told them, what their own life means, what they mean when they look, what they feel when they look out at the rest of the people on the bus, or the people that they know in their families. Empathy and connection, that's what I think television does. It connects us through shared emotion. So I would, go for the feels.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kate. You guys hear that? Connection, go for the feels. And Sheila, I know that this might be difficult, but just 1 minute. Can you tell people how our listeners, how things have changed for you since you've won and done this project last year?
You're mute.
You're mute, Sheila.
Oh, I'm actually not on mute.
Oh no, we can hear you. We can hear you now.
Okay. I know everybody. I'm really sorry. I know everybody was saying that they couldn't hear me earlier. I hope you guys can hear me now. Is that a bit better?
Yeah,
that's good.
Perfect. Yeah, it's done a lot for me, because I now of course have a broadcast credit, and I've been able to show my film to so many different people. My gosh, it's unbelievable the reaction that I've had from young people, not just young Black people, but young people saying, oh my gosh, never thought I'd have the confidence to get on a horse. I didn't even think I could do anything like that. And I've had people from like Nigeria inboxing me saying you should come to Nigeria and do a documentary about Nigerian equestrians, and and it's been really overwhelming in that sense. And I really love the fact that even the people who are already Black equestrians reaching out to me and saying, oh my, no one ever verbalized all the things that I've experienced so well. And of course, one of my contributors is trying to get to the Olympics, Christine. She's just been given a horse on loan, and she's now, she wants to be the first Black British equestrian for Team GB. And she's gotten so many opportunities off the back end of the documentary. And for me, that is like the biggest win of all, because it's given somebody a platform that they didn't have before.
Thank you, Sheila.
Sorry. But yeah,
I know
it's
wrap up, but we really appreciate you telling our listeners all these things. I would want to take this opportunity before we wrap up to thank everyone for coming. Thank you, David. Thank you, Kit. And thank you, Sheila, for joining us and sharing all this information for our filmmakers. I want to thank BFI Flair for hosting us today. And this webinar was put together in collaboration with BFI Flair. I want to thank everyone that is listening. Again, our website is togethertv.com. Everything that you want to know about the application will be there. And if you have any questions, whether you want to ask us or you want to post to our panelists, send it to us at info@togethertv.com, and we will forward it to them. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And I think the more questions are coming. Oh dear, sorry. Sorry guys, we are running out of time and we have to wrap up now. So just want to say thank you to everyone that's joined our social today, and we're looking forward to seeing you there this afternoon. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Bye guys. All the luck, all the best of luck.
It's great to meet you, Sheila.
You too, guys.